let's talk about Wuvable Oaf. Uh, how did you arrive at the concept? What led you to create this character?
Sure. I had just moved from New York City to Davis, California, just outside of San Francisco. Actually, it's a suburb of Sacramento, technically, I think you could call it, and was facing having the beginning of a smaller painting situation, studio situation. So I got invited to do a series of paper doll drawings for a paper doll themed art show at a Phoenix based gallery called the Trunk Space, which is still around. Shout out to those folks. And I did three. I did Guts and Glamour zombie paper doll. I did career makeover for Elizabeth Berkley of Showgirls and Saved by the Bell fame. And then the third one I did was just this character Wubble Oaf, who was the blank paper doll was him in these pink kitty undies with a little black kitty face on them. He had a sort of horrific mug that was very much an amalgam of a lot of cartoon characters that I was a fan of. Bluto from Popeye, Sluggo from Nancy, old GI Joe comics. And he was just this pale, scary guy with pink teeth and pink eyes that you wouldn't want to mess with in these kitty undies. And then all his outfits were the lovable part of the oaf. They were fuzzy pajamas, a jogging suit with little kitties attached to it. He had a Smiths t-shirt on, and his accessories were a Chipmunk Punk album that you could sort of fold onto his hand. And then I think, what was the other one? Oh, it was a Smurfs album, one of the early Smurfs records that came out, I think, in the late 70s, early 80s. So the concept kind of sprung to life in just the single paper doll image. And it was the one that got the most attention. A lot of people that were close to me were like, who is this guy? Because I named him Wuvable Oaf. I kind of created a logo for the drawing. And it seemed like a comic, given the amount of attention I was getting, would be the best way to do this. So, as I said, I had kind of moved to Sacramento at the time, or I'm sorry, San Francisco at the time, and it all kind of coalesced and came together, and in a way that lightning strike a little bit, and the concept unfurled from my first couple months living in San Francisco.
So, did you originally approach the project as a comic book series, or did you also explore doing this as a web comic?
No, I never. I was terrified of web comics, and I mean, we're talking like 2007, 2008. So they were happening, but they were not. I would say the platforms weren't there. They weren't quite as user friendly. If you were going to do that, you'd have to build your own website. There was nothing that you could kind of upload to. And MySpace was happening, but it was not quite used to share comics or disseminate comics at that point. Facebook, I think, was a little bit off, and Instagram was, even further beyond that. So I was very much invested in making it a physical book, because San Francisco at that point was also just littered with comic book shops. The place that I moved in at had Isotope Comics in on Fell Street in San Francisco. Wins the best comic shop of the year every year there. So I got to know the owner quite well, James Syme. And really, just started to say to myself, I think I can do this, but it was always going to be a print project.
So you self-published the original run, right?
Yeah, yeah. I had someone who helped sort of fund that, fronted the money to have it printed at Howard Quinn Books, which was one of the printers of the original, I think, Zap Comics, actually. And use that to get the first couple issues out. I also made special edition versions of the books, which included little extras. I kind of took the music band model, the bundle that really, kind of picked up steam, I would say, within the last 10 years. I had observed that in other places and started to pack in an issue of the comic with like a glow in the dark cover, a record, a single. I was lucky enough to have someone who knew a couple bands that could record as Vaculoid. So released a couple singles in the special edition format. And that helped because they were a little more expensive, pay off the more expensive print runs of a couple thousand issues. And I just kind of tried to be very savvy about it. My husband helped me create a business model essentially, and was able to bankroll that money so that I became independent shortly after that. Didn't do a Kickstarter or anything like that, but was able to be really smart and kind of save my money and pour that into the project and just kind of keep it going, and eventually be able to partially live off of it.